Mingling?
Mingling is good.
Squeezing hard.
This project really emphasizes sustainability, and it's not just, and it epitomizes sustainability, both with respect to our community, with respect to the environment, and with respect to history. This project impacts all members of our community. It impacts our faculty, it impacts our current families, it impacts the alumni families, as well as the broader community of Princeton. So another piece about this is that we're saving something of historical significance to the Princeton area, and we're repurposing it, which is really the epitome of what sustainability is about. And in order for us to have a little bit more of a historical perspective about where Waldorf School of Princeton has come from, I've asked Mr. Heberlein to say a few words.
I mean, I was asked to speak about, from the teacher's perspective, and having been here for so long, it's going to be a little bit hard just to stay on that path, but I'll start there, because I remember when Sarah and I were looking at schools, we visited the Kimberton School, and I'm not sure if I dreamed this or if it was true, but I remember seeing a faculty room in the old building that they have there, that house, the mansion, that it had book-lined walls, it had couches, and I thought, wow, this would, you could just sink into this place. And then I came here, and just sort of for thinking a little bit about it, Peter Scheretti used to do some of his planning and correcting at the castle. And he used to do his calls from his car. And I pretty much had an office at a desk outside of every classroom that I worked in, and including the particular one that I liked was the little landing at the top of the stairs, going to the lower floor of the grade school building. But of course I did work in the faculty room along with the shelves of books, the copiers, the computers, and the nurses, and the sick children. And actually, probably the nicest byproduct of that was being able to get to know the nurses, because the nurses at our school, they really are wonderful. And that's a good thing to mention, because for this project actually does impact them. And it impacts the children, because the children who aren't feeling well, they need a place that's not encumbered with faculty members, and the nurse deserves more than a little student desk that's right there next to the sick bed. And so carving out that space, carving out a place for teachers to prepare, to study, sometimes just to find a little privacy, is such a huge thing. But, and this is where I veer off the road, yesterday Jim Kurtz came to visit, and he for those of you who don't know Jim is a gentleman. He's 94 years old, and back in the 1920s, from when he was about 6 to when he was about 12, he lived on the farm that is now the school grounds. And Jim has all the archetypal farm stories you would want to hear. And so I asked him about this barn. And this barn used to be the machine barns where he and his dad and his brothers, not Jim, but his dad and his brothers would fix the tractors and trucks and so on. And Jim talked about what he loved to do was there were gunny sacks. He liked to tie the gunny sacks so they were open cloths, and then he and his next oldest brother would take nails and they'd sew them together in the backyard, and they'd make these huge tents with tunnels in between. And he was describing this to my students yesterday, and they're all going, oh, that is so amazing, And so for me, one is this question of history, that this project preserves, physically preserves a history that I think we have living at our school. Jim is like our grandpa. The second thing that it preserves is, and Elon knows this because I'm sure he was, and I know I was, lifted up by a pulley by our students from a pulley that would hang outside that barn, a block and tackle. And my daughter, Eliza, was about halfway up when everything got tangled up and got sort of trapped there until she was rescued by Dale Coy. And of course, you have the picture of Kristen Daly sitting there as Rapunzel, you know. So for the desks up and down, so for the students, for the school life, but also, and I apologize, but this to me is it's so exciting in a way. I remember being asked by Eckhart, we've got to go paint this building, and you know, so we'd say, okay, it's the weekend, but we'd go up there. And there weren't enough people, and so the building would get half painted, and for about the next 15 years it was half painted, and you'd have parents who gave up their weekends, gave up their time to come, and they gave their work to that space, and it never quite got finished. And then we had a group of fathers who really recited a good part of that barn out of their goodwill, and you have a building that has had parent love and attention and energy poured into it. And I think that it now has the possibility for that, to me, is also very, very exciting. So, and just really having something moving, going up there in terms of building has been very exciting. And so I did have to veer off that because from, you know, having been here and, you know, looking around and seeing people who have, you know, all those little crazy special things, that building is like a, you know, is a little pebble in the pond, you could say. Our activity there could have wonderful ripple effects. So that's what I wanted to offer. So thank you.
Thank you.